Useless. The word sliced through the polished hush of the five-star restaurant like a whip. Tiana's serving tray jolted as the businessman's elbow slammed it, sending a volcano of scalding coffee erupting across her crisp white uniform. Gasps fluttered through the crystal and chandelier air. The man didn't flinch. His $10,000 Rolex caught the light as he flicked droplets from his sleeve with the same disgust someone reserves for pigeon droppings. "Clean this up." Tiana froze. Heat bit into her skin, but she didn't move. Not yet. Then, his phone rang. Instantly, the tyrant transformed. "Wait!" he barked in flawless Mandarin, voice suddenly silk. His tone shifted to the smooth charisma of a man used to buying countries over cocktails. The line crackled. Signal failed. "Worthless connection," he muttered, jabbing at his phone like it had personally betrayed him. That's when Tiana moved. Slowly, deliberately, still dripping coffee, she leaned just close enough and in razor-sharp Mandarin said, "Sir, take 3 steps toward the window. The steel beams block the signal here. It will strengthen there." Silence. Forks stopped halfway to mouths. Champagne fizz paused mid-bubble, every eye locked on them. The businessman's head whipped up, his arrogance faltering. His eyes widened like he'd just seen a chess pawn stand up and demand a crown. The power had shifted, and everyone knew it. 5:15 a.m. Her alarm screamed in the dark. Tiana's body throbbed from yesterday's double shift, but her hand shot out before the sound could wake Amara. The apartment was small, but every inch had a purpose. School books stacked neatly, a calendar tattooed with work shifts and translation deadlines. No blank spaces, no margin for error. In the bathroom mirror, she practiced her smile. Professional, pleasant, invisible. The kind that earned tips without inviting trouble. "Mama." Amara's soft voice pulled her back. The 10-year-old stood in the doorway, hair wild, eyes half closed. Already she understood the grind. "Zhao Shang Hao, my sunshine," Tiana whispered, kissing her daughter's forehead. Their small rebellion, Mandarin greetings in a world that assumed otherwise. "French test today?" Amara mumbled around her toothbrush. Toast popped. Vocabulary words floated between scrambled eggs and packed lunches. This was their routine. Conjugations at breakfast, courage with coffee, love woven into every syllable. On her phone, another rejection. Translation agency. Credentials required. 5 years of experience, flawless work, ignored, because she lacked a degree she couldn't afford. "You'll get a better client, Mama," Amara said gently. Her eyes caught everything. Tiana tucked her disappointment away like a magician hides a knife. "We're doing just fine." But the rent hike notice hidden in her drawer screamed otherwise. Restaurant hours cut, translation gigs drying up, the math never added. They walked to the bus stop, city shadows heavy, dawn reluctant to arrive. Amara switched playfully between English, Mandarin, French, the trilingual symphony her mother insisted on since birth. "Remember," Tiana said at the school gate, their mantra daily carved into air. "Your mind is borderless." "And my worth isn't determined by other people's vision," Amara finished, eyes bright. Tiana's chest swelled. Her daughter was her rebellion, her proof. As Amara disappeared into the school's doors, Tiana checked her watch. 3 hours until the restaurant. Barely enough time to finish a translation job that might cover groceries, but not the landlord's greed. She squared her shoulders, walked faster. The Chateau Bleu glittered in its old money arrogance. Chandeliers dripping crystal, marble floors polished enough to shame mirrors. Every silver spoon reflected her bent posture back at her, distorted, small. "Section 5, Manager Blake muttered without lifting his eyes from his tablet. Jang party canceled. And just like that, she was erased again. Forks stopped halfway to mouths. Champagne fizz paused mid-bubble. Every eye locked on them. The businessman's head whipped up, his arrogance faltering. His eyes widened like he'd just seen a chess pawn stand up and demand a crown. At 15 a.m., her alarm screamed in the dark. Tiana's body throbbed from yesterday's double shift, but her hand shot out before the sound could wake Amara. The apartment was small, but every inch had a purpose. School books stacked neatly, a calendar tattooed with work shifts and translation deadlines, no blank spaces, no margin for error. In the bathroom mirror, she practiced her smile. Professional, pleasant, invisible. The kind that earned tips without inviting trouble. "Mama?" Amara's soft voice pulled her back. The 10-year-old stood in the doorway, hair wild, eyes half closed. Already, she understood the grind. "Zhao Shanghao, my sunshine," Tiana whispered, kissing her daughter's forehead. Their small rebellion, Mandarin greetings in a world that assumed otherwise. "French test today?" Amara mumbled around her toothbrush. Toast popped. Vocabulary words floated between scrambled eggs and packed lunches. This was their routine. Conjugations at breakfast, courage with coffee, love woven into every syllable. On her phone, another rejection. Translation agency. Credentials required. 5 years of experience, flawless work, ignored because she lacked a degree she couldn't afford. "You'll get a better client, Mama," Amara said gently. Her eyes caught everything. Tiana tucked her disappointment away like a magician hides a knife. "We're doing just fine." But the rent hike notice hidden in her drawer screamed otherwise. Restaurant hours cut, translation gigs drying up, the math never added. For once, she had been seen. In the kitchen, Chef Dominic arched a brow. "What happened out there? Blake looks like he swallowed a lemon." "Nothing," Tiana said, grabbing a clean tray, but her voice betrayed her. It wasn't nothing. No, it wasn't. Because every time she stepped back into the dining room, she could feel Andrew Lee's gaze tracking her, watching her not as a server, but as something else. His Chinese investors arrived, 3 men in impeccable suits. They ordered in polite English, but when technical talk began, Mandarin slipped out like a secret code. Each time they did, Andrew's eyes flicked toward Tiana, testing whether she caught it. She never revealed a thing. Neutral, invisible. "More water, gentlemen?" she asked, pouring smoothly. One of the men looked at her directly. In deliberate Mandarin, "Your colleague tells us you speak our language. Where did you learn?" The air froze. Blake stiffened in the background. Tiana smiled politely and answered, in flawless Mandarin with calm precision. "My mother was a professor of international education. Languages were not optional in our home. They were survival." The men exchanged impressed glances. Respect. Small nods followed her each time she returned with dishes. A quiet recognition Andrew didn't miss. 2 hours later, the investors departed, satisfied and intrigued. Andrew remained behind, scrolling his tablet. Tiana approached to clear glasses. "Your party has left, sir. Would you care for anything else?" Andrew set the tablet down, eyes fixed on her. "How long have you worked here?" 5 years, sir. "And before that?" Tiana hesitated. "Various service positions and freelance translation work?" "Freelance?" His brow lifted. "Not with an agency?" "I contract occasionally with Blue Horizon, but mostly independent." Andrew leaned back, studying her like a rare artifact. "Yet here you are, serving coffee." The words pierced, but Tiana kept her mask intact. Reliable income is important when you have a child to support. Something flickered across his face. Calculation. Decision. "You're a single parent." "Yes." Andrew's tone shifted from sharp to deliberate. "My company requires a full-time translator and cultural consultant, specifically someone with your linguistic profile." Her heart raced, but caution wrapped around her ribs. "That's an unexpected offer, Mr. Lee." Not an offer, he corrected. An interview. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. He slid a business card across the linen. The edges pressed into her palm like a key she hadn't known she needed. Blake appeared instantly, groveling. I hope everything was satisfactory, Mr. Lee. Your server is exceptionally competent, Andrew said without looking at him. My check, please. Later, as the restaurant emptied, Shanice leaned against the bar, wiping glasses. You're not seriously buying this, right? Rich guy spills coffee, hears you speak Mandarin, suddenly wants to hire you? That's not a job. That's a setup for disappointment. Tiana rolled the card between her fingers. Heavy paper, embossed logo, Leeway Technologies, CEO. It's just an interview, not a promise. Shanice shook her head. Men like that don't see us, T. They see tools, useful until we're not. Blake emerged from the office, coat on. Tomorrow's schedule is posted. Tiana, you're on Section 3, window tables. I've worked those tables for 4 years, she said sharply. Blake's smile was sugar-hiding poison. We appreciate your service, but Mia is taking over the Zhang account. Restructuring. Mia poked her head out of the locker room, still glowing with youth and entitlement. I heard you speaking Chinese today. That was amazing. Where'd you learn that? Before Tiana could answer, Blake snapped, Let's keep personal histories out of the workplace, shall we? This isn't a networking event. The card in her pocket grew heavier, a choice waiting. Actually, Tiana said slowly, tasting the words, I'll need tomorrow morning off. I have an interview. Blake's brows shot up. Interview? For what? Translation services, Leeway Technologies, with Mr. Lee. Blake barked a laugh, sharp and dismissive. Be realistic. They hire Harvard grads, not... He stopped himself too late. Not what? Tiana's voice was ice. Not servers, Blake muttered. Be here at 10:30. Don't throw away reliable income-chasing fantasies. Reliable. Invisible. Small. Tiana slipped on her coat, his words hardening into resolve. I'll let you know. Outside, the night carried a chill of early autumn. Shanice hurried to catch her at the bus stop. You're going, aren't you? Tiana's eyes fixed on the traffic light. Red to green. Stop to go. I'm tired of being invisible, Shanice. My daughter deserves to see me try. The bus pulled up, headlights cutting through the dark. For the first time in years, Tiana allowed herself to see possibility. Morning. Leeway Technologies loomed above her, glass and steel piercing the clouds. Inside, marble floors reflected her nervous steps. Navy blazer, pencil skirt, her one professional outfit pressed to perfection. Andrew's card in her hand. I have an appointment with Mr. Lee, she told the security guard, steadying her breath. Miss Wells, 9th floor executive suite. The elevator carried her upward, silent but heavy with the weight of everything she'd risked. When the doors opened, a minimalist reception gleamed. The receptionist looked up, polished smile in place. Miss Wells, Mr. Lee is waiting. Andrew stood as she entered, extending his hand. That same analytical gaze, sharp and assessing. Thank you for coming. Tiana sat, placing her portfolio on his desk. Your resume is interesting, Andrew said. Self-taught in 3 languages? Tiana corrected him without hesitation. Self-directed. My mother was a linguist. I grew up in a multilingual home. Continued my studies independently. She drew a breath. No degree. 2 years at City College before I had to leave. My mother's illness. I worked full-time to support us. Andrew nodded, making a note. But his eyes never left hers. Tiana barely had time to settle into the chair across from Andrew's desk before he launched his test. Without warning, he switched to Mandarin. Translate this technical specification for me. Current semiconductor applications in quantum computing. Her pulse spiked, but her mouth didn't falter. The words flowed out, crisp, accurate, with the tone of someone who had lived in this world, not just studied it from books. Andrew's brows lifted, but he didn't let up. He switched to Cantonese. Now, explain the cultural implications of gift-giving in Hong Kong business contexts. Tiana inhaled, then delivered, fluid, layered, and laced with nuance about how the younger generation rejects traditions their parents once swore by. He pushed harder. 20 minutes, financial terms in Spanish, diplomatic phrasing in French, cultural landmines in Japanese. She didn't just answer, she owned the room, painting pictures of global boardrooms he hadn't even sat in yet. Finally, he switched back to English, eyes sharp. Impressive. Your technical vocabulary exceeds most degreed translators I've hired. Tiana leaned forward, unflinching. Experience is its own education, Mr. Lee. He exhaled. The position pays $75,000 annually. Silence. A test. Another power move. But Tiana didn't blink. The market rate for a multilingual consultant with my expertise is $95,000 plus benefits. Andrew's mask slipped for half a second. Surprise, then respect. The kind men like him rarely give women like her. You came prepared. I value my skills appropriately, she shot back, steady. The city skyline shimmered behind him like a promise. Andrew leaned back, folding his hands. As perhaps I should have from the beginning. When would you be available to start? That night, pacing her apartment, Tiana's doubts flooded in. 95,000 full benefits? Girl, that's not a job offer, that's a jailbreak, Shanice shouted over the phone. Across the table, Amara pretended to do homework, but her ears burned. It feels too sudden, Tiana murmured. What if it doesn't last? The restaurant is safe. Safe? Shanice scoffed. Blake's been planning your funeral there for years. Sometimes opportunity doesn't knock. It spills coffee, curses at you, and then hears you speak Mandarin. Tiana looked at Amara. Her daughter didn't even glance up. She just said quietly, Mama, you always tell me not to let fear stop me from growing, so why are you letting it stop you? The wisdom of a 10-year-old sliced through her hesitation like a blade. Later that night, the numbers confirmed what her heart already knew. This job wasn't just survival, it was freedom. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number, Andrew Lee. Miss Wells, I've reconsidered your compensation request. We'll meet your asking price of $95,000 plus comprehensive benefits, potential bonuses quarterly. Contract ready tomorrow. Please confirm. Tiana stared at the glowing message. For once, the universe didn't whisper. It screamed. Her fingers flew. I accept. And under her breath, she whispered the words like a battle cry. No turning back now. The next morning, her reflection in the elevator's mirrored wall startled her. A tailored charcoal suit, a professional twist in her hair, company badge resting heavy against her collarbone. Yesterday she was invisible. Today the world would have to see her. The doors slid open to the gleaming 30th floor of Leeway Technologies. People moved with purpose, heads turned. And for once the looks weren't dismissive. They were respectful. Her office, not a cubicle, not a shared desk, an office with her name etched on a plaque. On the desk sat a plant with a card. Growth begins with being planted in the right environment. Welcome, Al. A knock on her door. Diane, her new department lead. Ready for the tour? Tiana's phone buzzed. A text from Amara. Crush it, Mama. Tiana smiled, squared her shoulders, and stepped into her new life. Not smaller, not hidden. For once, she wasn't asking for permission to exist. She was demanding to be seen. And 2 weeks later, when Andrew announced that her cultural adjustments had saved the Beijing contract, every executive in that boardroom finally realized what Tiana already knew. She had never been just a server. She was the weapon they never saw coming. Tiana kept her face composed, but inside her chest a quiet flame burned. Her edits to the Beijing contract had been simple. Tiny shifts in tone, small pivots in phrasing. But subtlety had power. They hadn't just translated words, they had translated respect. Now, Andrew was already moving to the next campaign. "The Taipei expansion is next," he said, bringing the presentation to life on the screen. "Tiana will lead the localization team. Diane, you'll handle logistics. First draft due Friday." The meeting broke. Executives shuffled papers, muttering approval. But Andrew lingered by the door, watching her gather her notes. "A moment, Ms. Wells." They walked together. Not the dismissive Andrew she had first met in that restaurant, but a man studying her like a chess piece he underestimated and now couldn't ignore. "Your contributions have been noticed," he said quietly. "Not just by me. Mr. Xiao specifically praised your cultural insight in our last call." Tiana inclined her head. "I'm glad to be useful." He stopped at her door. His gaze sharpened. "Why weren't you already working in this capacity? Your skills were clearly wasted in a restaurant." Tiana's lips curved faintly. "Opportunities often depend on who sees your value, Mr. Lee, and who doesn't." For a flicker, something crossed his face. Remembrance of the man who had once called her useless. Regret, maybe, or just recognition. "Well," he said finally, "your quarterly review is coming. Metrics are excellent. Keep this up and the bonus will reflect it." As he walked away, her phone buzzed. A text from Amara's school. First place, science fair. Multilingual solar system project. That night, takeout boxes covered the table, dishes they'd never splurge on before. Amara, glowing, asked, "Do they treat you well there, Mama?" Tiana thought about the meeting rooms, the way colleagues leaned in when she spoke, Andrew's voice carrying her name with respect, the silence where Blake's daily humiliations used to live. "They see me," she said simply. Amara nodded, eyes older than her years. "Good, because you're brilliant." Tiana laughed softly, heart full. "We both are, Sunshine. We both are." Quarterly review day. The air in the executive conference room buzzed with anticipation. Tiana walked in, every nod of acknowledgement from the team, a crack in the glass ceiling above her, but not everyone was clapping. "Impressive numbers from the Asia-Pacific Initiative," CFO Raymond Voss said smoothly, scrolling through slides. "Andrew, your team exceeded projections by 17%. Credit goes to our new cultural consultant," Andrew said without hesitation. "Ms. Wells's insights transformed our approach." Raymond's smile never touched his eyes. "Quite the Cinderella story, from pouring coffee to corporate strategy in under a month." The words were sugar-coated poison. The air thinned. Tiana held her composure. "Results speak for themselves," Andrew countered, voice firm. Raymond's tone sharpened. "Of course. Though I do wonder if we're over-attributing. The company survived decades without a diversity consultant." The insult was deliberate. Diane leaned forward, fire in her voice. "Mr. Voss, Ms. Wells's role is specialized cultural and technical translation. She's not a diversity hire. She's the reason your numbers are green." "Of course," Raymond replied with mock sincerity. "I only question pathways. Most of our hires come through top universities, industry pedigrees." "I have 9 years of translation experience," Tiana said calmly, cutting him off before the poison spread further. A low mutter slithered down the table. "In a restaurant." Victor Chen, head of product development. Andrew's jaw tightened. "Let's focus on results, not resumes." But Tiana felt it. The temperature drop, the sideways glances, the same old resistance, just dressed in better suits. Success was dangerous. Success upset hierarchies. And success had just made her a target. Back in her office, Diane caught her arm. "Don't let them get to you. Raymond and Victor go back decades. Old guard. They'll adjust, or they'll rot in the corner offices with their golf clubs." "I'm used to proving myself." Tiana said evenly. But inside, a storm brewed. Her inbox chimed. An email from Victor Chen. Please review attached technical specifications before tomorrow's Japanese client call. Expecting your cultural insights given your unique background. The condescension bled through the screen. But so did the opportunity. The files were dense, stuffed with specialized terms meant to trip her up. Tiana straightened her back the same way she had when Blake smirked at her across the restaurant floor. She dove in, line by line, stripping the errors, refining the phrasing, embedding cultural precision like sharpened blades between the words. 3 hours later, her reply was crisp and cold. Corrections and cultural context attached. Let me know if you need clarification. No flourish, just lethal competence. Andrew stormed into her office the next morning without knocking. His face was thunder. We have a situation. The Osaka deal is falling apart. Tiana looked up slowly. What happened? Claims we misrepresented technical specifications. Victor handled the call this morning, while you were at Amara's school event. Ice laced her veins. The Osaka deal was worth $30 million, and Victor had deliberately kept her out. What exactly did they say? She pressed. Andrew scrolled his phone. Something about component tolerances being disrespectfully low. They're threatening to walk. Her ears sharpened. That phrase, disrespectfully low, it wasn't a technical complaint, it was cultural. That's not specs, Mr. Lee, Tiana said, steel in her voice. That's language. That's misunderstanding. Andrew's jaw locked. Emergency meeting, 20 minutes. Finance, legal, executives only. The exclusion was the knife twist. She should have been in that room. Her fingerprints were all over the Osaka deal. I should be there, Tiana said flatly. This isn't a technical issue. It's cultural. And if I'm right, you're about to let Victor crash a $30 million partnership out of pride. Andrew hesitated. The battle lines were drawn. Tiana scanned the Japanese correspondence with razor focus. The numbers were flawless. No error, no weakness. The problem was subtler, more dangerous. Presentation. In Japan, offering minimum specifications first wasn't humility, it was insult. It whispered, "We think you'll accept scraps." That cultural misstep could torch $30 million overnight. She typed an analysis, quick but precise, and fired it off to Andrew. Silence. No reply. Through the glass walls of her modest office, she saw the executives streaming toward the conference room. Raymond, Victor, the finance wolves, legal, all summoned to battle. Diane glanced at her with pity, then vanished inside. Her phone buzzed. A text from Amara lit up the screen. Thanks for coming today, Mama. My teacher said my project was the best. Pride bloomed in her chest, then immediately collided with dread. This fragile, rising world she was building for Amara and herself felt like glass, beautiful, but one crack away from shattering. Success followed by exile, recognition followed by erasure. Always the same pattern. The office phone rang, slicing through her thoughts. Andrew's assistant, voice taut. The Tokyo team is calling back in 15 minutes. They've specifically requested their original contact. Tiana froze. Me? Yes. Mr. Lee asked that you join the conference room immediately. Her pulse thundered. She walked to the door, hesitated. Raised voices leaked out. Victor. We can't restructure the entire proposal in 15 minutes. Raymond. Then prepare for a $30 million write-down. Her hand hovered over the door handle. Images crashed through her. Amara's bright, proud smile with her science project. Their new apartment lease signed just last week. The tuition savings account she'd opened with trembling hope. Blake sneering at her in the restaurant. Customers ignoring her existence. Every moment she'd made herself small to survive. Her daughter's voice whispered in her memory. Mama, you always tell me not to let fear stop me from growing. She pushed the door open. Silence. Heads turned. Andrew's eyes widened, surprise, then something like relief. Victor scowled, already sharpening his knives. "Miss Wells," Raymond said stiffly, "this is a closed meeting." Tiana stood her ground, calm, controlled, dangerous. "I know why Osaka is upset. And it isn't the specs." Victor barked a laugh. "I've managed Asian markets for a decade." "Then you should know," Tiana cut in, "that leading with minimum requirements is disrespectful. It suggests you think your partners will accept mediocrity." The room froze. "They're not rejecting our technology," she pressed on. "They're rejecting how it was presented. Reframe the conversation around optimal performance, not minimums. That's the only way forward." Andrew studied her intently. "You're certain?" "I am. And I should lead the call. They asked for me." Victor shot up from his chair. "Absurd! We can let a—" He spat the word. "Waitress, handle a $30 million negotiation." The word cracked like a whip. Old shame threatened to flare, but Tiana didn't flinch. Her voice was steel. "I was a waitress, Mr. Chen. One who speaks 5 languages and understands the cultural nuances you clearly missed. The question isn't whether my past disqualifies me. The question is—" She locked eyes with him. "Is your prejudice worth 30 million? The conference phone rang, Tokyo on the line. Andrew's hand hovered over the button, then paused. He looked at Tiana. "Your call." She stepped forward, spine straight, heart hammering but steady. At the head of the table, her seat now. She bowed slightly toward the speaker, though they couldn't see her, and her voice flowed in polished, respectful Japanese. "Moshi Moshi, thank you for your patience. We deeply value your attention to excellence. Your concern about our specifications proves your commitment to quality, which we share." Around the table, jaws slackened. She continued, flawless. "Our documentation listed minimum requirements for transparency, but our design targets exceed industry standards by 40%. Allow me to share our optimal performance framework instead." Andrew slid the revised numbers across to her. She didn't just take the papers, she took the room, and every man at that table knew it. Tiana didn't blink. She flowed seamlessly, her Japanese precise yet warm. "The quantum processing architecture achieves stability at levels designed for integration with your Hikari system. We would never offer anything less than excellence to a partner of your caliber." The sharp edge in the Osaka executives' voices softened. Confrontation cooled into collaboration. Their questions pivoted. No longer knives, but scalpels, probing specifics. When they asked about cultural protocols for the Tokyo rollout, Tiana was ready. "We've already aligned the launch with spring, the proper season for new beginnings, and incorporated traditional ceremonies into our schedule." That detail, absent from every official document, landed like a masterstroke. The lead negotiator's voice shifted, respect audible even across continents. "Well, San understands our concerns. We appreciate this clarification." By the end of the call, the crisis was not only diffused, but reversed. Osaka requested an accelerated timeline. Trust wasn't just restored, it was doubled. When Tiana ended the call, the silence in the room was deafening. Victor stared at the table as though it had betrayed him. Raymond rubbed his chin, calculating. Diane smiled openly, pride undisguised. Andrew broke the silence first. His voice was low, measured. "That is why backgrounds and degrees matter less than actual expertise." Diane added, almost sweetly, "and why listening to the right voices is good business." Tiana gathered her notes with deliberate calm, though adrenaline still thundered in her veins. "Shall I draft the revised timeline for approval?" No one dared challenge her. The next 3 days blurred into a sleepless sprint. Tiana lived between her office and the conference room, translating dense technical jargon into culturally resonant language, aligning specs with engineering teams, weaving every detail into a narrative Japan would not just accept, but honor. On the third night, the building was a tomb. Midnight pressed against the windows. Below, the city pulsed with neon and ambition. Alone at her desk, Tiana reviewed the final draft. Her phone buzzed. Shanice, Amara's asleep. Said to tell you Ganbata before she crashed. That means good luck, right? Tiana smiled, tired but fierce. It means, do your best. Tell her I am. The office door opened. Andrew entered, 2 steaming cups in hand. Coffee. A small thing but unthinkable from him a month ago. He set one beside her. The Tokyo team wants a final call at 1 a.m., he said. Tiana accepted the cup, her fingers brushing his for a fraction of a second. We're ready. Their concerns are addressed without compromising ours. Andrew studied her. I reviewed your cultural context file. It's brilliant. You understand values as well as words. At 1 a.m., the Osaka line lit up. Tiana commanded the call, her tone a symphony of precision and respect. When the CEO himself joined unexpectedly, she pivoted instantly, her Japanese softening, more formal echoing tradition. Every nuance hit like a perfectly struck note. By 2:30, it was done. Agreement on every point. Andrew walked her out of the building into the thinning night. Congratulations, he said. You just saved a partnership worth more than most people will see in a lifetime. Tiana exhaled, her exhaustion edged with triumph. We did good work tonight. No, Andrew said quietly, stopping her. You did extraordinary work. There's a difference. The next morning, sunlight streamed through her office window. Tiana was back at her desk, already dissecting the Shanghai project, when Andrew knocked lightly and stepped in. The Osaka contracts are signed. Legal says it's the smoothest international deal they've processed in years. That's excellent news, Tiana replied evenly, though pride flickered in her eyes. Andrew closed the door, sat down. A rare move, intimate, not corporate. His voice dropped, stripped of its usual armor. I owe you an apology, he said. And for the first time, Tiana saw not Andrew the empire builder, but Andrew the man, uncertain, recalculating, aware he had underestimated the woman sitting before him. Tiana didn't rush to fill the silence. She let Andrew wrestle with it, her stillness forcing him to sit in his own discomfort. When we first met at the restaurant, he said at last, his voice quieter than usual, I treated you as invisible, beneath notice. Most customers do, Tiana replied evenly. That doesn't make it right. Andrew leaned forward, and for once the hard edges in his face softened. I spilled that coffee. It wasn't your fault. The admission caught her off guard. A man like him didn't usually confess weakness. Thank you, she said simply. What's worse, he continued, is that I almost missed extraordinary talent because I couldn't see past my own preconceptions. He shook his head. How many others have I overlooked? Many, Tiana said without flinching. We all have blind spots. The question is whether we correct them when they're exposed or double down. His mouth curved at that. Not amusement, recognition. When you spoke Chinese that day, it forced me to recalibrate. But I've been asking myself, why did it take something so dramatic for me to actually see you? Because systems of invisibility are comfortable for those they benefit, she said, until they become costly. Andrew's laugh was rueful, almost bitter. 30 million costly. He straightened his jacket, mask of composure sliding back into place. The executive committee meets next week. Promotions and reorg. I'll be proposing a new role. Vice President of Global Communications and Cultural Strategy. Tiana's breath caught. That's appropriate recognition, Andrew cut in, his tone leaving no room for modesty. For someone who saved a $30 million deal. He moved toward the door, then paused. Your daughter, Amara, right? How's she adjusting to your new schedule? Warmth flickered in Tiana's chest. She's proud. It matters what children see possible. Andrew nodded slowly. Indeed. My father was a janitor at the university where I got my MBA. He never lived to see it. His invisibility taught me to be visible, or so I thought. His smile was faint but real. Then he left her office, the air heavy with a new, fragile respect. The quarterly all-hands filled the company auditorium. Tiana sat with Diane's team, every glance and whisper reminding her that the Osaka story had spread like wildfire. Andrew delivered the usual updates, earnings, projects, milestones. Then he stopped. His gaze swept the room. Before we close, he said, I want to highlight an extraordinary contribution. 3 weeks ago, a $30 million partnership with Osaka Technologies was collapsing. A year of technical work was on the brink of going to waste. But in that moment, one employee stepped forward. The screen behind him lit up with slides from the Osaka deal. Andrew's hand lifted toward the crowd. Tiana Wells identified the issue, reframed the conversation, and not only saved the deal, but deepened our relationship. Talent, he said, voice rising, exists in unexpected places, if we're willing to see it. Applause rippled. Tiana kept her posture controlled, her smile measured, but inside her heart pounded like a drum. Miss Wells joined us just 6 weeks ago, Andrew continued, from a very different professional background. Yet her expertise has already reshaped our Asia strategy. Victor shifted uncomfortably in the front row, jaw tight. Raymond's expression was unreadable, though his eyes gleamed with calculation. Today I am announcing the creation of a new executive role, Vice President of Global Communications and Cultural Strategy. And I can think of no one more qualified than the woman who proved its necessity. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Andrew looked directly at her. Miss Wells, would you join me on stage? The applause swelled. Tiana rose, each step deliberate, her spine straight as steel. Standing beside Andrew, facing hundreds of colleagues, she thought of every shift where she'd been invisible, every tray carried, every insult swallowed, every talent ignored. Now the spotlight was hers. Thank you, she said, her voice steady but charged. I accept this role and the responsibility it represents. The crowd erupted again. Diane beamed. Raymond gave a thoughtful nod. Even Victor, cornered, offered a grudging clap. For the first time in her career, Tiana Wells wasn't just seen. She was celebrated. Meanwhile, across town at Latau Blue, the lunch rush buzzed. Shanice shoved her phone toward Blake. Did you see this? The Business Journal headline glared across the screen. Former server named vice president after saving multi-million-dollar deal. Beneath it, a photo of Tiana, professional, composed, luminous. Blake squinted. That can't be right. Oh, it's right, Shanice shot back, satisfaction dripping from her grin. Our girl is running their global comms now. Whole strategy. Not bad for someone you once told to move faster with the water glasses. Blake muttered something under his breath, but the truth was undeniable. Tiana Wells had rewritten the script. Other servers gathered around, leaning over Shanice's shoulder as she scrolled. Damn, whispered Miguel, who'd worked side by side with Tiana for years. She used to help me with Spanish translations for picky customers. Never knew she spoke 5 languages. Blake, red-faced, retreated to his office without a word. The silence said everything. The woman he had dismissed, overlooked, and underpaid was now splashed across headlines, celebrated, praised, and tied forever to his restaurant's name. Across town, in the maintenance wing of Leeway Technologies, Luis Morales read the same article during his lunch break. A Mexican immigrant with an engineering degree that the U.S. refused to recognize, he'd spent 7 years fixing boilers and AC systems while brilliance collected dust inside him. Hey, his colleague nudged, pointing to the photo. Isn't that the VP who always greets you in Spanish? Luis stared at the image, heart shifting. Yes, it is. That evening, he walked into HR, his voice steady. "Tell me more about the Educational Assistance Program." In Andrew's office, the board chair closed a folder. "Osaka saved our fiscal year. The new VP position? Bold move, and the market's already applauding. Inclusion metrics just skyrocketed." Andrew didn't smile. He looked out the window, his jaw firm. "It's not about metrics. It's about finally seeing the talent that was always here." The chair smirked. "Speaking of that janitor you mentioned, Luis, his manager says he just applied to the engineering program, claims he can increase cooling efficiency by 20%. Andrew turned, interest sparking. "Is that so? Set up the meeting." Back at Latau Blue, Shanice poured coffee for a young woman watching the business news on the bar TV. "That story is amazing," the customer said, gesturing toward Tiana's feature. "Makes you wonder how many other people we underestimate every day." Shanice smiled quietly, her own abandoned accounting degree whispering in her mind. "More than you'd imagine." On her break, she pulled out her phone. Community college night program, accounting track, enroll. Sometimes inspiration came from unexpected places. Sometimes seeing someone else rise made you lift yourself too. 3 months later, Tiana leaned in the doorway of their new apartment. Sunlight streamed across built-in bookshelves where Amara, arms outstretched, twirled in delight. "Mama, it's perfect! I can see the trees while I study." On the shelves sat textbooks in 4 languages. In a silver frame, a smiling Amara held up her citywide language competition trophy, her mother glowing proudly beside her. "Mama," Amara asked, pulling out a thank you note written in Japanese, "will you help me with these characters? I want to thank Mr. Lee for the books." Tiana sat beside her, guiding the brush strokes. The discipline of language, the bridge of communication. "You know," Tiana said softly, "when I was your age, people always asked why I bothered learning so many languages. What did you tell them? That languages are bridges to worlds others can't see. But I was wrong about one thing. I thought learning them would make others see me. But really, they helped me see myself." Amara grinned. "And now everyone sees you, Mama." Tiana kissed her forehead. "Yes, now they do." 6 months later. At the International Business Conference, Andrew stood before an audience of executives. "6 months ago," he began, his voice steady, "a woman I had dismissed as just a server saved this company $30 million because she carried skills I never bothered to recognize." He let the words hang in the air before gesturing toward Tiana in the front row, radiant in her new role. "Since launching our Hidden Talent initiative, we've uncovered engineers in maintenance, a graphic designer in accounting, even a literature professor in customer service. Innovation is up 40%, retention is up 35%. But the real win? We stopped being blind." He scanned the hall, letting silence sharpen the impact. "The most expensive words in business aren't, 'We made a mistake.' They're, 'We failed to see what was right in front of us.' The competitive edge of the future belongs to those who see the unseen. The question is, will that be you?" Narrator, Closing Fate Tales CTA. If this story moved you, don't just keep it inside. Every day, countless people are overlooked, their brilliance dismissed, their voices silenced. By liking this video and subscribing to Fate Tales, you're helping these hidden stories rise. Did you recognize yourself in Tiana's journey, or someone you love? Share this with them. Sometimes all it takes is one story to spark the courage to step into the light. New empowering tales drop every week. Subscribe now, hit the bell, and never miss a chance to witness the unseen. At Fate Tales, we don't just tell stories, we reveal them. Because everyone deserves to be seen. You've watched the story. Now, what will you do with it?